Hi everyone, welcome to the Mumbai India Dynamic 365 Power Platform User Group. Good afternoon and good evening, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Rakesh. I'm Senior Solution Architect and Center of Excellence Lead for Dynamic 365 FnO with TCS. I am specialized on finance and operation app side. The aim of Cross Apps Learning Series is about platform converges to share out-of-the-box features, our learnings, best practices, and some of the key design considerations. But before we get into a discussion, let us understand the objective of this cross-app learning series. It's a 6-day session, 1 hour each week. So far, we have completed 2 sessions, and this is our 3rd session in the series. Let us look at the learning series agenda for our next 3 weeks and detailed topic for discussions for today. So we started with basic of Dualwrite and virtual table or entity and how they are helping to resolve the complex challenges of data unification as well as the unified experience for the customers. In terms of agenda today, we will try to understand the notion of legal entity or a company concept in FnO and how this concept got extended further in Dataverse as part of this cross-app technology or infrastructure that is Dualwrite. We will also try to understand the record ownership from a Dataverse and FnO perspective, and then we will see the security construct in Dualwrite and virtual table. We will also walk you through the end-to-end scenario of prospect to cache or order to cache by using Dualwrite technology or infrastructure. Our aim is to share our learnings and the key design consideration while you are considering the Dualwrite for your implementation. Okay. And towards the end, we will also look into the on-hand inventory features in customer engagement app and some of the limitations which we noted while designing. So with that, I'll move on to next slide. So the notion of the legal entity or the company concepts is known concept in the FnO. But let us start with the understanding of legal entity and the company concepts. So, but before we get into get into a more detailed discussion, it is important to understand the how those concepts got extended further in FnO as well as in Dataverse. So in FnO, we have a data area ID, which defines the security for the particular records where the data save data per company option is enabled for a specific table in FnO. It further defines the security roles and permissions when you try to define the roles and duties and permission on top of that. It also refers as a legal entity in a business term, okay, where a customer may have multiple legal entities or multiple units operating from different geographies, and based on their businesses or operating units from multiple geographies, right, they can define different legal entities in the FnO. So when you set up your ERP system in the financial operation app or FnO, it is important to understand the list of countries and the different units that are operating from a multiple location perspective. You may have a different stores as well, or those stores or those different units are operating using a different currencies as well, right? So therefore, it is required to define as different company in a financial operation company or a legal entity. So in a subsequent slide, I will try to walk you through in more detail. So there are many things to talk about the legal entity or a company. However, I will try to stick to the data area ID concept for our discussion today. So in Dataverse, if you look at this presentation deck, which actually unlike FnO, which mixes the security and the business construct together in the same company concept, right? These are explicitly separate in Dataverse. And if you already using Dataverse earlier, having a knowledge on the Dataverse, you must be familiar with the concept of business unit or the owners, and that is more security boundaries within the Dataverse, right? You have ability to define the business units and the owners inside the Dataverse, and company in Dataverse is completely a new concept altogether as part of this Dualwrite, which gets enabled as part of Dualwrite, as I mentioned earlier, right? So the company records having relationship to the to the table called CDM underscore company in the Dataverse, and that actually allows a separate control given a record of a company with the business units, right? So I will try to double click on this more when we will move on to the next slide and try to highlight the aspects of the relationship, how it is connected from a data model perspective, right? FnO security and the ownership with legal concepts, whereas Dataverse as a separate concept for record ownership. That is how the essence of this particular slide. If you look at the more detailed understanding of your table relationship with the company information in FnO, okay, you must have understood, right? I have just tried to add a table called sales table from a FnO perspective, right? And these are the all snapshot that I took from a FnO. So the journey starts with the data ID. So data area ID is a dedicated table inside the FnO, which actually holds the company detail informations and the required stuff which is required for a data area ID. And then that data area ID having a foreign key relationship with the sales table as highlighted in the slide deck. Okay. The table company info and the data area ID is also having a one-to-one relationship with using the 4-digit of that data area, as you can see in a number 1 and number 3, which actually indicates the one-to-one relationship between company info table and the data area ID, data area table, right? Which is correlating with data area ID field in both the tables. And this is how it covers the legal entity and the security construct in FnO. Now I'll move on to the next slide, which talks about the relationship of that company information in Dataverse. So let's see same table in Dataverse, which is a sales table. So in Dataverse, it's a sales, it's order table, and the metadata name is a sales order table. A table called sales table holds the information, as I mentioned, right? So earlier, which holds the information of customer order header information, which has a company ID, which is nothing but a CDM underscore company field, which has a foreign key relationship with the CDM underscore company table. And this is what it says the record of order holds against the legal entity. However, from a security construct perspective, what user can see, and therefore it is owner ID is linked to the system user table, which I try to highlight in a point number 2, and that is where, unlike FnO, where there is no specific column which tells the who is created and who has modified the records. There is no direct relationship in Dataverse table for a specific business unit. In this case, the scenario which I'm trying to highlight, so in this case, the user, that is me, owned by the record, and I can also see that if another user is part of that information or a same business unit, can also see the record, and that is how the security construct is related to the business unit concept of Dataverse. However, there are many tables in Dataverse where there is no owner field associated with, right, such as product or global entity table, right, or global table, global product table, right. So still, they still have the company ID and globally available for further, data relationship and all. Let us quickly understand the Dualwrite security. I think we tried to cover some of the concept in the first session, where it's a service-to-service call. The user does not need to exit in both the system. You need to just register the Azure Active Directory app and then register the ID and all. However, from a FnO to Dataverse record own perspective, it is the ownership lies with the default owning team. And when you set up a Dualwrite, by default, the setup automatically set up the default owning team for respect to company as a dual write. However, you can go and modify it in customer engagement app if you want to change it. Whereas in Dataverse to FnO, in that case, when the data or record flows from Dataverse to FnO, it is scoped by the data area, as I mentioned in the previous slide deck. Let us look at some of the security concepts for virtual entity. I think we tried to touch base a couple of them in the second session. However, I just try to reiterate one of the key aspects to understand from a designing or from a solution design perspective. Whenever the data entity calls happen from Dataverse, it impersonates the calling users, right? So it actually calls the actual user and try to impersonate that calling users in the FnO. Because if you look at this presentation deck, in the slide deck, I just try to highlight the user ID that I have added in the Azure Active Directory form of FnO with the client ID, which I registered as Azure app in the domain where the FnO is hosted, and it actually impersonated. So in this case, the user needs to exist in both the system and should have the proper privileges to perform the current operation, right? That is create, update, and delete. Now let us look at the scenario where this fit into purpose of the Dualwrite, and this is what I'm just trying to walk you through in today's session, how this information flows from a order to cash or a prospect to cash scenario perspective. So I borrowed this slide from the docs.microsoft for everyone's understanding. What is this order to cash or prospect to cash scenario is all about. As you can see here in the slide deck, the top portion indicates the Dynamics 365 sales tables or entities, and the bottom sections indicates the FnO tables or entities, right? I'll just quickly start with where the journey is going to be start with the accounts. So the account represents the customers in the FnO, and you can create a customers in FnO which gets synchronized bidirectionally with sales. However, you can also originate the information of customer or the auto numbering of that information from cells, which will pass on to customers table or customer data entity in FnO. Later on, it creates a party and party ID and the related address information. You can also refer to contacts. That is how the active customer is all about. So I will not go into more detail, but this is how the data model and the data entity or tables references are all about. You can also synchronize the product information from FnO to sales, where you can see the list of price item which you define at a product level, sales price, that will be synchronized with the CE into a respective table for price list. However, if you are going with the trade agreement, so there is no out-of-the-box maps are available within the Dualwrite, and that needs to be customized, and then only the trade agreements prices will start flowing to that custom entity in Dataverse. There are few limitations as we talked about the Dualwrite in this particular scenario, like quote and orders. So leads informations are not recorded. However, you can record the quotes, and that quote will be submitted from CRM to FnO. It's a bi-directional, and then it will automatically reach to orders and the invoices. So that is how the whole bunch of information, right from your customer, your contacts, your products, your quotes, and the sales orders, and then eventually it is going to be invoiced inside the FnO. And then we will try to see in detail as we go further and try to understand more information, right? So before we move on to the practical demo, I would like to highlight the key aspects to take into consideration as far as the some of the design consideration for this Dualwrite or cross-app information. One is the guiding principle for pricing, because as you must have looked at the order to cash or prospect to cash scenario, right? though the data is flowing from both the apps, from a master data perspective or from a transaction data perspective, but the pricing, where that is where the monetary value comes into picture, right? So pricing is the core aspects, and that needs to be taken into consideration while you design the consumer. So the FnO is the master, and that holds the truth of all the pricing. The FnO supply chain management engines for price calculations needs to be used while doing that, and that is how the Dualwrite is built using the same engine. I will just try to walk you through when we'll have a detailed demo on this. But the idea is that when you try to understand the concept of pricing, it has to be used from the supply chain management core engine, and then the monetary value which is available on quotation, and then which leads to sales order, and then it generates the invoices in FnO as a master. So there will not be duplicacy of whole bunch of business logic for pricing and calculation in the Dataverse. So that is where the FnO holds the master, and it holds the single the repository for the pricing and all calculations. So moving towards the next slides, which is our demo. So I'll just try to walk you through the two key scenarios in the context of prospect to cash or the order to cash. The very first scenario is we will create the order from CE, and we will try to apply the discount as well as the line level miscellaneous charges in FnO, and then we will see how that information flows back to CE with the help of Dualwrites. I will also try to walk you through the key Dualwrite maps that I have enabled as part of this demo, and those are required to be enabled as part of either you require the initial sync to be happen, or your data to be replicating both the system bidirectional or unidirectional. If time allows, I will also try to touch base the second scenario, which is we will try to create the order in FnO, and this is most of the common scenario that I have seen, that order always get generated FnO, and the only reason being that there can be additional information of discount or any sort of additional charges, that is miscellaneous charges, might come from different source into FnO. That is the reason maybe order is being created in the FnO. However, that order needs to be synced back with the CRM application of sales from a user persona's perspective, right, based on the customer need. So that scenario also we try to see if the time permits, if time allows to do that. However, I'll just try to focus more on the scenario number one. Towards the end, I will come back to the slide deck, and we will talk about the known limitations which needs to be taken into consideration when someone is designing or try to utilize the Dualwrite as an infrastructure for the integration or this kind of a complex business scenario. So let me stop the presentation and share my screen. Once I share the screen, can someone confirm with me through chat whether they are able to see the screen or not? Can someone confirm whether they are able to see my screen? Okay, perfect. Thanks. Thanks, Sanjay. Thanks, Core Labs. So I'll just quickly walk you through the setup that I have done for this presentation, and then we will quickly jump into the order creation process from the CE perspective. Apologize for this delay. Sometimes it takes a lot of time to refresh the application. Let me just quickly refresh and see. Okay, there you go. So I'll just quickly navigate to the initial setup that I have done for Dualwrite to enable the list of map. Though you will find this information on this Microsoft temp site, docs.site, where the list of templates to be enabled. So you need to navigate to the data management workspace in the system administrator module. Then the Dualwrite. Okay, let me just quickly filter on running just to show you the list of maps that I have enabled. So the very first map you can see the all products, because I need my master's products which I do have in the USMF company or legal entity in FnO needs to be synced back with the CDS. Then the list of contacts and the customer information. I also enable the customer V3 entity as well. There are a bunch of other maps that I have enabled for distinct products, for sales orders to be header and sales order line to be synced back in a bidirectional mode between FnO and Dataverse. Uh, I have also enabled the currencies, the customer groups, as well as the product categories, as well as the release products. And last is the invoice headers and the invoice lines, so that whenever we create invoices, it will immediately available in a Dataverse or vice versa, right? As a prerequisite, I have already created a customer called DW underscore test inside the FnO as well as the Dataverse, which already sync it back. This is the order that I have created earlier, okay? But we will try to create a new order. I'll just go back to the main page of the orders. As you can see here, the journey is going to start with the initial step of from a CA perspective. And I'll just quickly click on new and try to create a new customer order header. As I mentioned earlier, my USMF company is going to be by default because that is how my ownership is. Try to add the potential customer. I have already created a customer called DW test. Okay, I'll just quickly go down and define my shipping date as today, 16th of October. I'll keep all this information as blank, and then I'll try to save this information. So as soon as you save this information behind the scenes based on the maps that we have enabled, it automatically starts synchronizing the information as and when it is, committed in a Dataverse, and you will immediately see that order is being reflected in the finance and operation. So right now we just created the sales order, the order header. We are yet to create a line. We will do that. So, but before that, I'll just quickly go back and just copy this information of order in a notepad just for a recording perspective, and then I'll quickly go on and add product here. I'll just define the product that I have already set up because I have already so this is the mid-range product which has already predefined template. As you can see here, as soon as I select the product, it automatically picked up the price per unit and the quantity. So I need a quantity of maybe 10. Okay, and I'll say save and close. So this is how the order header and order line is being created in CRM. I will try to go back, and you can see here the detail amount is 100. The total is also 100, considering the fact the information that we have added here, which is a price of 10, quantity of 10, and that equals to 100. So what I'll do now, I'll try to go back to the FnO and we'll try to see whether the order is being immediately synced or not. I'll just go back to the account receivable all orders form. Let me just copy paste that number that I have copied. You can see here the order header is being created. You just double click on this and try to see the more detailed information such as line details and the information which is price, quantity, and line amount, right? So far, so you can see here the line also got synchronized here with a quantity of 10 against the site and warehouse of 1 and 13, the unit of 10, unit price of 10, and the net amount is 100. So now what I'm going to do, the order is being created. What I'll try to do now, I'll just try to go back and try to add the additional charges at line level. Okay, in FnO, and then we'll see how that information needs to be synced back with CE in terms of the pricing engine perspective, right? Because that is how the core is. So as a next step, I'll go and navigate to the financial option and I'll try to add the additional charges on this particular line. Whole calculation in FnO based on the information that we have initially captured in customer engagement app, and then on top of that we added these charges. Let me just apply the, I already set up some dummy codes, the freight, and the freight charges would be, say for example, 20 USD, and then let me just save this. Let me close this form and we'll just go back and validate the order total. So for that I'll go back here, but before that let me just quickly open this total form so that we can see the total calculation from a FnO perspective in terms of the additional thing. So as you can see here, the subtotal amount is 100. The total charges that we apply, that we entered is 20 USD, and then the 5 USD is the total sales tax, right? That becomes 125 is a total invoice amount. If at all, if I go and perform the next step as the invoicing, confirmation, and picking, right? So the monetary value for this particular sales order against the customer DW test would be 125. However, if you go back to the customer engagement, it is still holding the old values, right? So that is where the pricing engine concept and the design concept comes into picture, which shift with the product capability, right? So I'll just quickly close this and we will try to see how this value will be flow to the customer engagement map. As we speak, this is still a manual step and not as a automatic step in the customer engagement app perspective. It is likelihood that it is going to be there sometime in a coming or multiple the next subsequent releases, but it is in the list of Microsoft where it will be automatically synchronized as and when the information is being updated in the FnO or a CRM, wherever you start the journey. So as soon as, if you just navigate to this path, there is an option called price order. When you click on the price order, it will start connecting to FnO behind the scene, try to validate the information that is being updated. And this is where the whole bunch of supply chain management or finance and operation app pricing engine comes into picture, and it try to fetch the information, try to refresh. So let me just quickly refresh this order now, and we will try to reevaluate the updated value that we have seen in the FnO. So I'll just quickly go back the FnO while this is and open the total form so that we can compare the information. So as we looked at, the total subtotal was 100 USD. In addition to this, we added a total charges, that is line level charges, and then the 5 USD is the calculated sales tax. If I just go back here and try to see the updated value here, as you can see here, the total becomes now 125, which is equivalent to your FnO, your tax amount, your freight amount, which is your charges, which we applied at a line level. And then if you go up and if you try to see this particular window of a line at a line level, you would see this information will be also available. Let me just quickly refresh here so that you will see that information. So as a quick recap for this particular scenario, we have first created an order in CRM. We have attached the items and the associated information over here. And then we try to synchronize that order automatically with the FnO. We have seen the order header and order line is being created in FnO. In FnO, we try to apply the additional stuff. One of the thing is your line amount charges by applying the miscellaneous charges or maintaining charges option, and then we apply the tax. As soon as we perform that activity, you would then as a next step we have applied the price order options, which is the manual activity to be performed in terms of the total amount to be synchronized in the CE, and that automatically happens by clicking on that options of price order. And then whatever the changes that we have performed inside the FnO in terms of pricing perspective, including miscellaneous charges and taxes, automatically start reflecting in the CE. So as a next step, now I'm going to confirm this order, and then we will see how this information of changes from active perspective, from a status perspective, right? We will try to see how that information. So as a next step, I'll go and try to confirm the order. If anyone has any questions up until now, they can text or they can put it in the chat window. So I'll just try to confirm the order now. Apologize for the slow performance of the system. Okay, so I'm going to confirm this order now. As you can see here, before confirmation, the order status was open order, and we will see the order confirmation status once the order is being confirmed. So I'll go into the header section and we will see the status of the order. So as you can see here, the document status is confirmed. Status still is in order, open order, because we haven't performed any packing slip activity and the invoice. I'll go back to the CRM and try to refresh, and we'll see the status over here. So as you can see here, the status changed from active to submitted, as well as the status region is in progress, and the processing status of this order is confirmed. Now I'll go back and try to pick and pack the order by creating the packing slip. I'll just go down. Let's see, okay. So this step will create the packing slip for this particular order, and then we will see how the status is being changed from confirm to packing slip, and then from confirm to, okay, so it says that I do not have sufficient on hand. So let me just quickly go back and raise the on hand against the site 1 and warehouse 13. So I'll just quickly go back to the inventory management module, movement journal. I'll just quickly pass a movement journal to increase the inventory. I'll add a journal line. Site 1, let me just do some offset account, maybe that's all. So now I'll go back to my order again. So let me just copy the order number. I think I have already copied somewhere here. Yes. I'll try to filter the record of that particular order, which is this one. And then I'll try to perform the packing slip again, because right now I do have this sufficient quantity against this D001 item number. This time it should allow me to post the packing slip. This is done. I'll just quickly go back. Now you can see we'll just quickly check the status, which is delivered from confirm to delivered, right, in the FnO, because that is how the packing slip activity indicates. And as soon as you go back to the customer engagement or sales, you will see here the status is also got changed from the previous status of confirm to the delivered. You can see here, right, the status is fulfilled because my order is now fulfilled. Status reason is complete. If I just go down, the status is also delivered. So that indicates the data and the business process of this particular document status perspective is in line with both the application of FnO as well as in CRM, right? And that happens through the map which I already enabled in the system. Now the next step is invoicing, right? Because that invoicing allows me to close the entire end-to-end process cycle of this particular order. So I'll go ahead and do the invoicing, and then we will see the invoicing information in the CE, how it. So I'll try to move this. Okay, So let me just quickly go back and check the invoice journal in FnO first, and then we'll go back and see and try to see the status changes as well as the invoice detail information. So if I just click on this total so that we will try to compare both the information. Now I'll go back to the CE, try to refresh this record. So as you can see here, the status invoice, status region invoice, and the processing status is also invoice. Okay, if you just click on the related information of this particular, or maybe in the integration, you will see all this information of required which we have tried to synchronize in both the application. So what we have seen as a quick recap, the order that is being created in the CRM got synced back with FnO. In FnO, we have added the additional stuff, which is miscellaneous charges and the taxes that got also synced back. And we also see the status change from right from initial open order to the invoice in a detailed one, right? Any questions so far before I move on to the next scenario? Okay, I'll take it as a no. Okay, so let us switch the gear and try to see the second scenario. So in a second scenario, we will try to create the order inside the FnO first, and then we will wait that order is being synced with CRM or not. But before that, let me just quickly show you the additional feature that I was just trying to mention in the presentation deck, which is on an inventory. So which will tell you the available inventory for the particular item if it exists in the FnO, and as well as the ATP information. So this is all on-demand call. When you try to click on that option, it goes in a CRM, in a FnO, sorry, and try to pull the information related to inventory. You can enter the respective item here, and it will start showing the respective inventory entries on an inventories entries from FnO directly. Okay, let me just quickly go back and create the order in FnO, and we will try to see how it looks like. There is a slightly difference when the pricing engine gets called from FnO in CE. So the key difference is that when your journey of the order is starting from CRM, all the information, whether it's a master and the transaction line level information that you added, sync it back with this FnO. In FnO, you added some additional information, and then there is a on-demand option available, which we have seen the price order, right, which actually collects the information from FnO and then update the information in Dataverse, and that is how it reflects in CRM. Whereas in the second scenario, which we are trying to create as a creation of new order in FnO, all the FnO information of line quantity, price, or maybe discount, or for that matter, miscellaneous charges or taxes on top of that, will be mastered in a FnO first. However, the information needs to be synced back with the CRM in a second step. That needs to be happen through a batch. So I'll try to show you how to perform that activity. Let me just quickly create the order over here using the same customer, CUS001, and shipping restricted date. Let me just close this. So with this, system will create the order header information. Now we'll try to add the line for our item which we have. 001, and then I'll try to the warehouse site 1 and 13, quantity of 10, which is unit price of 480, so that becomes 4,800 something, right? Now what I'll do, I'll try to add a discount, okay, of maybe a 5%, okay. And then as a next step, we will add a discount percentage once the information is flow to the Dataverse, okay. So now I'm done with the order header and order line. I'll just quickly go back to the sales order and try to see the total view of the sales order. What is the exact monetary value, if at all, if I try to pursue this information as a in towards the invoice. So as you can see here, the total line discount is 50, subtotal amount is 4750 in USD, and the total taxes is 237.50 in USD. That becomes my total invoice amount is 4987.50. Okay, let me just close this and copy this number, and we'll try to see whether this information is synchronized with customer engagement app or not in Dataverse. So I'll just go here, show all order. I'll try to quickly filter the order with the number that I have copied, 860 000 As you can see here, the total amount is 4800. In the FnO as well, it was 4800 total amount. Okay. Later on, we added some additional information. I'll go back and open this order, and we will see the more details over here. So as you can see here, I have created information, but still that only the base information moved to the CRM, not the additional one that I have applied, which is the discount and the tax. Okay, so to perform this activity, you need to enable the additional batch job. That is how by design it is available, called as calculate sales total. You will find this batch job in sales and marketing menu in the periodic task. Either you can run it by specific defining a specific interval, or you can run it manually. I have already enabled it, so I'll just quickly navigate to the batch job table, and we will try to see the status, whether it is in a running status or not. And then we will try to refresh the customer engagement information here. So there you go. As you can see here, my batch job has ran now, and in CRM, I can see all the detailed information got modified as part of that change. So it is a asynchronous process from a FnO perspective to CRM. Whenever the journey of this order starts from the sales order. However, there are few information available about this process, and Microsoft is still working on this in terms of optimize the whole process if the journey of the order is being started from FnO to CRM, and this is going to be in future seamless experience rather than a batch process. I'll just quickly open the batch job, and I'll show you that batch job details so that you can configure the batch job based on your business scenario. So as you can see here, I have configured this batch job today. So this is this is how the process what we have seen for scenario 1 and scenario 2. Now I'll just try to add a few additional stuff here. I think we are already on top of the hour. I'll just go back to that sales order again. And this time I will try to add the additional discount, not by defining the value, but by adding the discount percentage. And then we will try to see how that information flow back to the customer engagement through this batch of. It will take another 4 or 5 minutes. So I'll go back here and I'll try to apply the, I believe this is the order number. Let me just quickly double check. 860. Yes, 860. And this time I'll try to add the discount percentage. So this is a discount percentage at a line level. Let's say I want to give a 10% discount. I'll just quickly go back and look at the totals over here, and we'll wait for that batch job to be run. So you can see the whole information got changed. The line discount is now 525 US dollars, and the total total invoice amount also got changed based on these changes that we applied. However, in the customer engagement app, it is still showing the old value, right? Because the batch of I have set up the batch of every 2 minutes, so we need to wait for 2 minutes. In the meantime, I'll just try to refresh so that we will see the information in case if the batch job runs in the background. So let me just quickly open side by side this total information, which is 448875. Let me quickly refresh this. You can see here 448875, 44887. This is how the total invoice amount. So point to be highlighted in the second scenario, you need to rely on a batch job to be run in a FnO when the pricing additional changes that you apply on the price to be synced back with the customer engagement app. So I'll take a pause here. I'll stop sharing and I'll again reshare my PPT, and then we will spend 2-3 minutes for in case if someone has any questions. Can someone confirm whether they are able to see my PPT? Okay, I can see it is still loading, Sanjay. Apologize for this delay, guys. Okay, there you go. So I'll just quickly move on to next slide, which is our last slide, and I'll try to walk you through the key limitations that has been recorded by the Microsoft on Docs as well. So one is the return order and the credit notes. So if there are any scenarios related to these business processes where you want to return the orders and also the credit notes, those are not supported at this stage as we speak. There is also one more limitation from a financial dimension perspective, and it must be set for the master data. Example, customers and vendors. So when a customer is added in the quote or sales order, right, by default, whatever the dimension that has been added at a master level for that customer will automatically move to the record that has been created, right? So currently Dualwrite does not include any financial dimension data for a master data. So these are the key limitations that I wanted to highlight. In addition to this, the point that I mentioned in the two scenarios that we talked about, right? If your order journey starts from customer engagement side, and then you want to add the additional discounts and the additional charges, that can be only applied in the FnO, and then from a CE perspective, it's a on-demand price update call needs to be happen to have that synchronized information of that prices from FnO, which got modified earlier. In a second scenario where the order is being created in FnO with additional details of taxes, discounts, or maybe additional freight charges information, those needs to be synced back with the CRM, but that needs to be happen through the calculate sales total batch job in FnO. So I think these are the 2 points needs to be taken into consideration while designing the solution using this cross apps Dualwrite. So I think with that, I'll take a pause now, and if someone has any questions, they can put it in the chat, and I will try to answer as much as I can. I think I'll take it as a no. So thank you very much all, and thanks Sanjay for giving this opportunity to present this. I think let us wait for the next session then, where we will try to talk about more on the ALM perspective from a cross app side. Okay, thank you very much all.